Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us.
Hey everyone,
Welcome back
welcome back
to the Soul
to
Rising
episode
podcast, episode
67.
67.
67.
I'm so proud of us.
Yeah, we made a decision and we stuck with it. Yeah. You know, we used to do this every week.
Yep.
Like met every week, recorded one, and then we moved into we'll meet once a month, but we'll record four for a month. And now we're like now we're doing bi-weekly.
Yep.
So we're meeting once every 2 months now.
Yeah, but it still works. Like it's great.
Yeah, it's good. Life is getting busier, but we're still making time and committing to the podcast and to each other. So I think that's great. I think it's a sign of longevity as well.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
And like being able to adapt to things in life and you know schedules and all that kind of stuff. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, we're walking the walk and talking the talk. So, we're here today to talk about trusting your intuition. Yeah.
Not an easy thing to trust.
Not an easy thing.
And actually kind of came up in a reading that I did the other day too.
Okay.
To trust, because there were questions about like development, spiritual development, intuitive development. Okay. Wanting to like build a relationship to the guides and how to connect to that energy.
No, I'm just kind of like, that's so funny because I put out a call on my social media yesterday. So we're back in time by the time you're viewing this. Yeah. It's March still. And I was like, future podcast ideas. And one of them is how to connect to your guides.
Yeah.
People want to know this kind of stuff.
I know. It's been on my mind so much. And I still am like, I really want to do like a mediumship development or just like intuitive development, like just workshop.
I saw that and I love that. Yeah, that's something that I'm working on too.
Okay.
I think it's cool. Yeah.
We should maybe we'll do a crossover one day.
We could always collaborate even like with one portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming up and I haven't really done a ton with it just because the currently past Erin is still wetting mind. But I think it's just come up so much lately with people in general too. I don't know if you're finding the same thing of like, how do we do this? How do you do it? And I don't think we can ever really say again, definitively, this is how we connect, because I think you and I both agree Spirit connects with us all so differently. There's commonalities, but I think we're all very unique in terms of how we are able to connect and how, because everybody interprets things differently, right?
That's right.
So it's a process. It's a process. And I think you and I are still, I feel like every day I'm learning something new with Spirit.
I think this is a on the job training for the rest of our lives.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It literally is. There's no, there are courses, right? But there is no like how-to book.
This is exactly why I got out of the mindset of trying to aspire to be an expert or be seen as an expert, because that's limiting.
Yes.
There's a limitation of like how far you can go. And I felt it was holding me back in my own, work. And so for me, I'm like, I'm just an enthusiast and I'll be an enthusiast till the day I die. And I'd rather learn from somebody who's an enthusiast than an expert. Because what does that mean anyway? Like,
what does an expert mean?
What does it mean?
Does it mean there's no more learning? You're done? That's it? You've reached that area? I don't know. Right. Even at my own bachelorette party, like we had a card reader, which was great. She was awesome. But they were like, well, you're the expert, Erin. I'm like, I'm not an expert. Like, please do not give me that title. Like, I'm not. I am not. And, her and I, we're both learning. Always. Right. So,
Always. That's the purpose of life. if you were an expert at life, you wouldn't be here anymore.
You wouldn't be here.
You'd be an evolved being. Connected to source.
Yeah, you're with the angels.
Yes. You are now an archangel. No, not really, because archangels were not living, right? Living, but guides.
Maybe then you're a spirit guide. Have you ever thought that? There's a time when I was younger and I was like, I want to be a spirit guide. Like, I think that'd be so cool to come back as. Like, I'm like, how do I do that?
Have you ever thought about, here's a mind bender for you.
Yeah.
So if there's no time and space and everything's happening all at once, what if you're already somebody's spirit guide? What if you're your own spirit guide? I don't even know. Like,
but there is some truth to that, because our higher selves.
Your higher self is I was just, yes, that's what I tell people in higher self readings, is like, your higher self is you, right? But I try to explain it in a way, like, because people are like, what? Right? Like, this is coming from within you. So to separate it, I'm like, okay, this is not actually how it works, but to help you understand, if you think about you in a far off time, kind of this very evolved soul looking back and being like, okay, so I'm going to give you guidance on how you can get here.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
how do we
telling
get here?
Your younger self.
You're telling yourself. So yeah.
Here's what, what if you could give your younger self any piece of advice, what would you say? Yeah.
What would you say?
I'd say, don't give up.
Yeah.
I would say, fuck them. Dude.
Screw it. We're gonna have to make this one explicit.
Sorry, you guys.
That's okay.
Only because there was a point in my life where I was told very point blank, like, you're not gonna do this. And I still kind of hear that every now and then.
Wow.
I don't think I've shared this on the podcast, but I have a learning disability.
I didn't know that.
I do. Yeah.
What? Do you
I don't really know.
Okay.
I don't know what that. I just know. Well, for me, it means I just take a little bit longer to process information.
Is that auditory processing disorder?
I don't know. I
have a child that's been diagnosed with auditory processing, and it means just what you exactly said.
So could be, yeah. I don't think I was ever given that title, that diagnosis.
Yep.
But I needed like more time on tests.
Yep.
In order to explain things to me, I need it to be visual. I need somebody to explain it in a certain way so that I can grasp the material.
Yes.
And because of my learning disability, my parents only recently also just told me this a few years ago when I was studying social service work, that the principal and the vice principal, and there were a few other teachers there, pulled my parents in for a meeting to say, your daughter will only ever do community work. She's only ever going to be a volunteer, so you should prepare yourselves.
Like, to financially support you for life?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to say to a parent.
And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
just because you needed a little extra time. It's not that you didn't
time.
get it. You got it. You just needed a little extra time.
And I needed it to be explained differently.
Yeah.
Than how it was being explained to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
and
terrible,
I was also told by my guidance counselor, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
No, don't apply for universities. You're not going to get in. Just apply for college. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for a teacher that I had and another guidance counselor who really advocated for me and helped me, I would have never gone to university. Because
that would have become your truth, like that.
Yeah.
That voice.
My mindset. Yeah. So what I did was I said, screw it. I'm going to take university, because you have to take like university courses in high school in order to apply for university. So I went to summer school in high school and I took all these courses again at university level. I got great grades. And because of that, I was able to apply for university and I got in. Wow. So it was just very... Thanks.
And thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that, because I imagine that a lot of people can relate to that, or even have children
who are in
that
similar.
like I have 2 children that have IEPs, which is an individual education plan.
Yeah.
Very similar experiences as you are telling me. So it just is a reminder again of how words matter and how they can create somebody else's reality and their mindset.
Yeah. So what I would tell my future my little self was, sorry to swear again, but
Yeah, that's okay.
Fuck 'em.
Rightly so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking about what I would say, and I've come up with 3. Number 1, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Yeah.
You're worthy comes up, because I always felt unworthy. And love doesn't hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I just thought love, to me, love hurt. And my experiences, all of my experiences leading up to, my marriage, it was, I don't know if I've ever shared this. I guess we're getting vulnerable.
We're getting vulnerable here. Yeah.
I even struggled in the early days with my relationship with my spouse, because he, you haven't fully met him, but you can probably get a sense of his personality. He's he just tells it like it is. There's not a jealous bone in his body. He's like, you do you, none of that. So, I feel like at the beginning I might even test him, where I'd be like, so I'm going out for a coffee with my ex, waiting for a response, be like, cool, have fun. Always fully trusting. He always said to me, why am I going to worry about you doing something? It hasn't happened yet. And if you do it, then you're not worth my time. And I always thought, oh my God, I need to be more like this, right? But in my mind, I tested him, because I'm like, you can't care as much as you say you do, because you're not jealous, you're not angry, there's no dysfunction, there's no fighting, right? And it's like this, and I actually craved that. And I thought that real love was that passionate, throwing things at the wall kind of experience. And that was my barometer for what love was. So my marriage taught me that love is not that. Love is really stable and accepting, and it's not. It's like I used to say, oh, I need that. It's too boring. And now I'm like, more boring, please. More of the same every day. More stability. More I can lean on you. I know you're there. More of that, please.
Yes.
Yes, so for me, I had to learn that love doesn't hurt.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I'm sure people can relate to that too.
Yeah.
Because how many women were taught it should be passionate, tearing your hair out, throwing things at the wall. If a guy is jealous, if a guy is mean to you, that means he likes you. Give me a break.
Thought love was this what do they call it now? Not now, but not love, but they say infatuation.
Infatuation. Yeah, there's a difference.
There's a big difference, and
that doesn't have staying power.
No. And then it was when I think I also tested Alex in some ways. We had an argument, and I was like, well, that's it. I guess we're done. And Alex was, I remember it was our first, kind of argument or disagreement. And he was like, no. He was like, I'm not letting some stupid argument. No, I care about you too much. I want to be with you, and I want to see where this goes.
We'll figure it out.
We'll learn. And I was like, oh, you mean
relationships are our biggest teachers,
right? Oh, you mean we can have arguments and disagreements, but we can still be okay? Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
You're gonna laugh. I'm not gonna reveal this card till later, but I was shuffling as you were talking, and one popped out in my hand.
Please tell me it's infatuation or
no. Oh, but I will tell you later, and you'll be like, oh my God. So okay. So I love that. And I invite our listeners to maybe reflect. That might be a journal prompt for today, the day that you're listening. If you could, what was one thing you'd say to your younger self? What have you learned now?
That's a really big one.
That, what does that inner child need to hear? Inner child work has been coming up a lot too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you feel the same with clients and things like that. Yeah. Inner child. What does that child need to hear? I think that sometimes there's a misconception too. Like when we talk about trauma, I'm quoting Gabby Bernstein. She's written a book called Happy Days, and she talks about big T trauma and little T trauma. And big T trauma might be, I've been in a car accident, I got cancer, I was abused, things like that, right?
Yes.
And we kind of use that, I think, subconsciously as a barometer, like comparing, oh well, that didn't happen, my parents aren't divorced, I didn't grow up with this, I didn't experience this, therefore I have no trauma. But she kind of dispels that, breaks it down. Everybody, being a human, you're going to have trauma, right? Even if it's a small T trauma, you've got trauma.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
about how healing that and working through that is so beneficial,
so powerful.
for your life. And I feel like things like that come up in inner child work, and it's a
Absolutely.
misconception that you don't have trauma just because you didn't experience a major life thing. Being bullied, trauma.
Yeah.
Being rejected, trauma. All trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did this. This makes me think of maybe somebody will want to incorporate this somehow, maybe in their teaching. So maybe it's coming up. But I had a phenomenal teacher at York. I went to York.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say it on the podcast, but I did. And I loved her so much. She had such a great way of teaching, and she was so passionate about the work. It actually was a course called, the course description was Theater of the Holocaust. And so we were learning all about trauma and what that can look like. And yes, we talked about the Holocaust, right? But there was a lot more to it. I remember one of the programs that we did was we all kind of traced our bodies. And she was like, okay, now I want you to draw some physical scars, if you have any, and your not physical scars. And what she taught us, because what she was saying to us through her teaching was that there's a story attached with this. And from that story, you're not only learning and healing yourself, but you're also healing that intergenerational trauma, but also teaching others.
Future. Oh yeah.
And future. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It was like, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're learning that trauma is inherited. Actually, there's a book I read, The Body Keeps the Score. Another one is called this. I think it's called This Didn't Start With You, something like that. I can't remember in the moment, but I've read a few books about trauma in the body, and it just there's some client kind of client shares in one of these books where he talks about certain sessions with clients healing trauma, or even like trauma that they weren't aware that they had, but it came forward in these healing sessions. And he was talking with one person that she would use certain phrases or words, or she would imagine certain things, and she didn't know why she would choose that phrase or that word or imagine this. But once he did this healing process with her, uncovered, that she had a grandparent in the Holocaust who had survived the Holocaust. And the trauma, the depression, the feelings that she had, even the words, there was something about burning. I can't remember what she said. There was some sort of phrase that she used all the time that like directly had to do with this experience. And so all of these case studies that he's sharing shows that the trauma from that grandparent has been inherited by you, and you might not realize it, right? And it shows up in your life in a variety of ways. It didn't start with you. That's what it's called. It didn't start with you.
Okay.
And that reminds me of past life readings I do too sometimes, where things come through and it's like, oh, maybe this is from an old ancestor, maybe this is from an old life, but just hearing it, having the light shine on it in some way, unearthing it, it's like all it takes to kind of shift something.
Yeah, it's like it's when you're finally able to like label something, right? Or to kind of not even label it, but like understand it. And maybe like, oh, that's where this could come from. That makes sense.
I think it's because then you've shifted yourself into a place of, it was funny because we talked about curiosity. You shifted yourself into a place of curiosity about it, rather than there's something wrong with me. I'm doing something wrong. I've done something wrong. Like, oh, that's what, oh, like I've seen that in my life, certainly many times. Now we're talking about trusting your intuition. Now we're talking about trauma, but I kind of feel as if they go hand in hand, because I feel like those things can sometimes inhibit us from feeling like we can trust our intuition.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's why we
need
organically started talking about it.
Yeah. You've kind of got to like sift through all of that trauma, right? Or hurt.
Or conditioning,
or
even.
Conditioning. That's a big one.
You've been taught
that
you can't trust it.
Yes.
So let's start with like the voice of your intuition. What does it sound like for you? Like, how do you discern between this is my intuition versus this is just the voice in my head, or are they the same thing?
I think they're the same thing. My intuition has always looked like me in my 70s.
Yeah. I love that, because we talked about like your future self, right?
Yeah.
The last episode.
And for some reason, she's always just been in a greenhouse.
Is she a crone? Yeah. Mine is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like every time I see her, it's almost like going to make me emotional, but every time I see her, she's like doing things with her hands, or she's like gardening, or she's like intentionally. Yeah, I think we've talked about it.
We've talked about that, and I love it. And I'm just making note of the fact that when I talk about my future self, I get emotional too. And I don't know why.
I think it's because you're speaking from a place of truth.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of feel it, right? I almost feel that way with similar things. If I get emotional with similar things, like even let's say, for example, watching somebody talking about a past experience with their loved one who's passed away, or they're talking about that like spiritual awakening, that gets me emotional. Because I feel like it's coming from a place of truth. And I can feel that. I can feel that energy.
It resonates.
Yeah.
I love that. And I also love, because for me, my intuition is not just like mental, it's very physical. I think a lot for many of us. And I often direct my clients to like, if you're struggling with this, up here in the mental, then tap into the intuition of your body, because your intuition, your body is inherently intuitive. It just knows what to do. It just knows how to digest your food. It knows how to breathe. The heart knows how to beat. You don't have to tell it to do anything. It knows how to heal if you cut your hand. It's just inherently intelligent. And I think we've forgotten that we are also inherently intelligent. We know what we do. We've been misguided. And those words, like we shared so beautifully in the beginning, how words matter. And when somebody tells you something about yourself, you can almost start to believe it. If you hear it long enough, you do believe it. And I feel like part of the remembering that we're going through now collectively is going, like, remembering we're seeing through all the BS, and we're like, whoa, like this is all just something that somebody told us, but it's not true.
No,
it's not true.
It's not true.
So yeah, I often like say like, oh, let's tap into the body, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you said about feeling the truth. And for me, one of the most common ways that I feel like I feel the truth physically is with chills.
Yes.
And I will often tell people those are psychic chills. And I just got them down my back as I said it. And I'm like, okay, so if you get those randomly, if you've heard somebody say something, you've read something, you've thought something, that's resonating at a frequency of truth for you.
Yes.
And your body feels the truth. So
Absolutely.
pay attention
so
to
pay
it.
Attention
So
to that.
I get those when I hear somebody, like it's maybe a motivational speaker or somebody say something and something will just hit, and it's like, oh, I feel it in my body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really good way.
I think that's a good way to
use
kind of trust.
Use your body.
Your body is your barometer.
Hell yeah, I love that. Your body is your barometer.
Put on a t-shirt.
I
want us just to have like t-shirts
with our quotes. Yeah, we should. We said that before. There was something else that came in and we were like, we need that on a t-shirt. And now I don't remember what it was.
Scott, if you could do us a favor.
not going to remember
Not that you're not doing a lot to begin with, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's been doing some really beautiful graphics lately. The book cover one I just loved. For that episode, the
Yes,
cover, but yeah,
it was
yeah,
cool.
the thumbnail.
It was really, really cool.
But yeah, so is there certain ways that you? So we talked about kind of like so it's your head voice, but also it is your head voice. Is
It's
what you're
you.
saying. It's you. So
Even
it's
when spirit talks,
it's your voice.
it's my voice. But there are times where I'm like, I feel like I can hear the voice.
Yes.
And it's in the back of the throat. There's a bit of a nasal, like I can feel it.
That happens too.
Like
I don't hear the accent, but there's a clear knowing of like there's an accent. Yes.
These
Scottish.
words. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a bit of like claircognizance.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah. That threw me off forever though, because I'm like, it needs to come in a different voice, a big booming God voice. No, it's your own voice.
It's your own voice.
Yeah. I think that's important for people to know, and I think it's important to know too. Like, it doesn't. It feels like it's you, but it feels like it's not you in the sense that you haven't actively thought it. You haven't actively created. Like if you're sitting down and you're trying to come up with a solution for something and you're racking your brain and you're brainstorming, like that's you, that's your brain, your mind is doing that. But if you're just sitting here and all of a sudden this idea just drops in and you're like, where did that come from? That's your intuition.
Yes, it is 100%. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think like I always have told folks like it feels very fast the way it comes through because the spirit is fast. Or like I also kind of attribute it sometimes if I'm like, oh, I'm forgetting something. Can somebody help me with that? What is that? Oh yeah, there it is. And I feel like it's also that. Like I think it's also our guides kind of coming in and helping us out a little, reminding me. I've always said that. I'm like, can you remind me about this? And I'll totally forget about it. And it comes right back. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. My little assistance. Right? Like
I love it. Yeah. No, I totally believe that. I just wanted to point out that I in the last couple hours we've been batch recording, so the last couple episodes, especially 66 and 65, I kept having numbers come in. So I just wanted to mention 27, and that came in another number, which is random. What is 27? We're gonna have to keep stock of these ideas or these numbers,
I like
these
27,
little messages. 27. But yeah, so it's quick. I agree with that. It kind of comes in. And I always say it's very neutral.
It's not going to tell you, oh, bad. I don't think it's going to tell you anything like negative. That's not.
It doesn't come in with I feel like it's neutral. Without emotion, without anxiety. I think that's a good way that you can discern between anxious thoughts versus an intuitive knowing. Right. Your anxiety might be like, oh my God, I don't think I locked the front door, and then you're you're just all these feelings come up for you, and maybe you're imagining somebody breaking into your house or whatever it is. Versus, Erin, turn around, you've forgotten to lock the door. It's just like that. It's not. It's not wrapped up in all these emotions. No. It's just the sudden neutral kind of thought. I often say your intuition, your intuitive voice is one and done. So I feel like it's not that thing that's going to be like looping like your anxiety would, where it's like, oh my God, I don't feel like it does that. I feel like it's like this. And I've been trying this out actually with things like when people put card pulls up on their on their Instagram, and they're like 1, 2, or 3, and I'll look, and sometimes like my first instinct will be 3, but then my mind goes 1. It's 1. And I've learned, nope, it's the 3 because that's what comes in first, and then it's my mind that's going 1, 1, 1, 1, but it's my intuition that's saying 3. So I've been learning to just go, what was that first thing?
The first thing that comes in,
not the repeating thing. The first thing, what was that? And it's always bang on for me. So I've been doing that lately too. To try to like build that intuitive muscle, because that's what it is. It needs to be used. Built. If you want to trust your intuition, you have to work with it. Yeah, you got to work with it,
or the muscle.
That's right. Yeah, that's the only way to trust is practice and through frequent use, right?
Yeah.
Like affirmations can help change the wiring literally in your brain through
Yeah, exactly.
repetition and consistency. That really reminds me of a movie that I watched the other day on Amazon Prime. Do you have Prime?
Yeah. Which one?
It's a documentary. It's called Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it.
My mind was like the whole time. So it's 2 hours and it's kind of broken into like 4 parts.
Okay.
I shared in my my Instagram stories a bit about this because you know how I talk about being able to see energy and how it's like geometric shapes
Very
and
colorful.
kind of constantly moving almost like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Well, they talk about that, the patterns in the universe, you know, the what's it called, the shape of the what shape is that, you know what I mean? Actually
Like
they talk about the mandala, you know, like that, like a mandala.
Yes.
Yeah, they talk about that and how like shapes can be seen and like everything all over, show different plants, trees, animals, things like that. And energetically, that's like the art of the universe. Like that's the universe and expressing itself. And anyways, they talk about how in 1980 there was a mathematician, and I cannot remember his name in this moment, but maybe I'll link the documentary in the show notes, or even like information I can find about it, how he discovered fractals. And fractals are exactly what I see in my mind's eye, and they show them on the screen. And my mind was like, oh my God, I'm seeing the universe's art. I'm seeing the universe expressing itself. A fractal, I don't know the exact definition, but it's essentially where you see something and then it like zooms in even further.
That's an image within the image, and an
image. Yes, that's what it is. And apparently that's what the universe is made up. Everything, us, our thoughts, everything. But they talk a little bit in there about you know, even like the neuroplasticity in the brain and how repeating something over and over again changes all the wiring. It's really fascinating for anybody that's interested in this, or like how do affirmations work. What's all this about energy, you know?
What's it called again, Amy?
Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds.
Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds. Okay.
It ends also with thinking, and the last part, so there's 4 parts. The last part is about thinking and just about how kind of the problem with us in society as humans, like we've never thought so much ever in the history of human history, and how it's all the thinking that we do that is actually causing us problems, because we're relying so heavily on the mind that we're totally disconnected from source, from the inner knowing. From we've identified, like if somebody was like, if we talked about you, most of us identify with the mind, or what the mind tells us, or the mind's role. So it talks a little bit, reminds me a little bit of the book that I always talk about, The Untethered Soul, which changed my life, in the sense that, like, okay, but who's witnessing the thought? Who is behind the thought? The thought is not you. The mind is not you. You are what is witnessing it, right? Which is like a totally mind-bending kind of thought when you really think about it. But it talks about that too, and just how we can change. You know, we really need to stop thinking as much, because it's essentially like we think, we come up with a solution for a problem, and in that solution we create more problems, right? So it's just this
ending.
It's never ending, and people are just thinking, doing, and there's no being. Is anybody really experiencing anything if you're constantly identifying with the mind? I don't know. I thought it was, I loved it. It might be dry for somebody who's not interested in this. My husband was kind of listening. He's like, what are you listening to? They used the most dry narrator, I'll tell you that. But the information itself was so interesting to me that I was captivated.
Kind of hooked with it. Yeah.
That is really cool. Hooked.
I love podcasts. I do like podcasts. But I love documentaries that talk about like the universe and our experiences, and
I think you'll like it. The fractal piece blew my freaking mind. It really did. Really, I was like, cool. Oh my God, that's what I'm seeing is fractals.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. But it's just, there's a lot of history, and how we see, you know, how in you know, prehistoric times, like forever and ever, like before recorded times, how there's certain shapes and symbols and things that show up in that to show that they were connected to that already.
Yeah, it's that
You know, like
sacred
the
geometry,
spiral,
is that
the sacred
right?
geometry. Yeah, there was an intelligence. It's almost like, it makes me think, like, I know that we have advanced so far in terms of like technology and stuff, but it feels like almost from that sacred intelligence piece, it's almost like we have moved backwards. Like we knew all that, we've lost that knowledge and that wisdom because of the reliance on the mind.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that, something similar like that before.
That's what it made me think of. It's just like, whoa, like people to say, like, you know, you watch something and it's like, oh, these people must have been. Remember that documentary we talked about in the fall? We watched Netflix. It was like a series. I can't remember what it's called.
Was he talking about the civilizations that possibly existed before ours? And yes,
that, well, they did, like, something existed, right? Because there's still places, you know, that show their existence, but it's like people think about that, although they were Neolithic, they were cavemen, they were not smart, like they didn't have any, you know, they didn't have thinking brains, you know, or, and it's like, I think they did, you know. I think they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Really
So
cool.
Your body is your barometer. So let's talk about, like, what are some ways, like, how do you know when you're disconnected from your intuition?
I mean, it's a big question.
I know.
Because I feel like
we can ponder it for a while.
Yeah. I feel like that is a paradox.
Okay.
Is that the right word?
Because you can never be disconnected.
Yeah. Because you can never be disconnected, but you can feel disconnected.
Right. Yeah. I love that you made that distinction. Yes.
So when do I feel disconnected from? I mean, I do try and disconnect after readings.
But from, like, you absorbing and communicating for spirit.
Yeah. But that's because of that's takes a bit of energy.
Yeah. A lot of energy.
I would say maybe when I'm really in my head about something, I feel a bit disconnected. So when I'm really in this, like, but I'm not and I am at the same time. So
I know.
When I'm in, you know, that kind of shadow space, that shadow self, that ego.
More of a negative mindset.
Yeah.
For me, I was going to say, like, if I'm feeling highly anxious about something, I know that because that's the mind. The intuition is not that. The intuition is like, it's just, it is what it is, what it is, what it is. You know, it's just like, it's totally different than that. So that's a barometer for me if I'm feeling highly anxious. Time has been coming up for me too, that, like, came up actually in the other podcast I was sharing, and this channeling that came through about time, and how spirit was teaching me that when you're feeling like time is speeding out of control, or you don't have enough time, that you need to really tap back in. It's a barometer for, hey, maybe you're feeling a little disconnected here, because when you're connected to that piece, you don't feel that sense of
that time,
panic, overwhelmed, time, running out of time.
Yes. That's a really good, also a good point.
Yeah. So when I feel that way, I'm like, because one of my triggers I've shared before, one of my biggest triggers is feeling rushed. Whether somebody makes me feel rushed, or I have, like, I'm making myself feel rushed because I'm catastrophizing that I think something's going to happen or somebody's going to be mad at me. That's my biggest trigger. I notice it makes me the most stressed. So it's interesting that spirit's like, hey, when you feel that way, you are really disconnecting from your actual true nature. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing too, right? Because we talk about there not being time in space in spirit.
But you know what though? The universe is a whole paradox within itself.
Yes.
So it's just full of these unanswered questions within questions, these fractals.
It's like a fractal. A question within a question within a question within a question. Yeah.
So
I love that.
I also just think like intuition and trusting is about maybe even having these conversations or having that awareness, coming in with an open mind. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, like we talked, I don't know if it was this episode or last episode where I said, you know, you can't F this up, right? If you are, your soul, your higher self is guiding you through your choices, whether you take the shortcut, whether you take the long road that's full of more lessons, maybe you take the long road sometimes because you're not listening to that, but either way you're getting to where you need to go. I feel like that can be freeing and help you trust your intuition. It can help you get out of the space of like, I failed, I've made a mistake, it's too late for me. I feel like all of these things keep us bound and trapped in that ego space.
Absolutely.
I feel like the biggest piece is listen to your body. You know, the chills, goosebumps, the feeling in your stomach when you know something isn't right. I always tell people to start keeping an evidence journal. I have one that I kept from a long time ago. Yeah, I don't know why I feel this way about this person, but I do. Or here's these other emotions. Later it's revealed,
that's why.
Okay, that's why. All of those things I put in there, and then I flip through occasionally, and I'm like, yep, that was telling me way back then. It just builds your confidence in that intuitive knowing.
Yes. I agree.
It's practice. It's practice. It's not like Erin and I don't, I'm speaking for you, but I feel like, you know, we're the same in this way. It's not like we never get in the doubt, into the mindset of like slipping back into it. I feel like that's the importance of the check-in that I mentioned in one of these episodes we've done, where it's like I check in with myself. I feel like checking in is the best way to see your growth. Because when you're in something, you kind of miss, you know, when you're in something, like say for the example, you're too in it. Example, you're trying to lose weight and you don't know, you've lost 5 pounds and you don't notice a thing because you're in your body, you're experiencing it at the moment. But somebody else might be like, oh my goodness, like did you lose some weight? Or maybe stuff's fitting you different, right? But it's like you don't notice when you're in it because you're too close to it, but other people are aware of it. That's just the first example that comes to mind. But I feel like the same thing happens when it comes to healing and to evolving, because sometimes you don't notice how much you have until shit hits the fan. So I think those like, right? Because so I will stop and reflect and I'll be like, whoa, okay. 5 months ago, a year ago, I would have responded to that different. Or maybe I respond the same as I did, showing me what my triggers, where I need to heal. But my recovery time from it is different.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that happened and that made me anxious. I feel like I want to share a story about this. And maybe I will quickly, but like, because that happened and this was my but I recovered from it so much quickly.
Then
like I recovered than I would have before. Therefore, oh, there's my proof. I've grown, I've evolved. I'm trusting my intuition. The story that's coming to my mind is from last night in real time, but for you listening now in May, this would have happened in March. I did a reading for 2 people. I do all my readings virtually. Never had a problem ever with anybody not being able to get onto a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's pretty.
Oh, 44. I look down. You click the join button.
You're there.
I see that you're there. You're in, right? 4 years, no problems. Last night, I'm sitting there. I text my husband. I'm like, so weird. They haven't joined the session yet.
I've just been here. Yeah.
Just weird. I'm just sitting in the room. And then half an hour goes by and I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave the room. I go and check my email, no email. I go on my Facebook. Something leads me to go to my Facebook while I was in my office rather than leave and go upstairs. And the person had messaged me on there. Oh, we've been here since 7. Like, you haven't let us in the room. And I'm like, weird. So then there's about 20 minutes of us trying to figure out why she can't join the Zoom room. And I'm starting to I'm getting in my head, I'm catastrophizing. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to be so mad at me. Oh my God, she's going to leave me a bad review. Oh my God, she's going to think I'm not like, I'm taking her for a spin. Oh my God, how am I going to fix this? Because I don't think this is on my end. I think it's on her end, right? Because I had my husband actually join the room. He could get in easily. So I'm like, this is on her end, but if I tell her it's on her end, is she going to be pissed off, right? Like all of this kind of stuff. And my mind is going, We figure it out. I don't know. I really don't know what the problem was. We really don't know. Just some sort of weird fluke.
Yeah.
Enters the room 40 minutes past when the session was going to be. And I'm just kind of like, I'm rattled. I feel into my chest. I feel anxious. I feel tightness. I'm like, I'm stressed out. I'm worried now. I'm not in my calm space like I like to be in a reading. Yeah. Oh God, what if this all goes to shit? I took a deep breath. I'm like, nope. I'm gonna walk the walk and talk the talk. Spirit always has my back. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I'm going to shake it off. So I just said to her, okay, I'm going to shake it off. I'm going to get myself back into it. She was like, oh yeah, no problem. And it was a phenomenal reading. And it was for 2 people. We had more than 6 spirits come in. It went so good. In fact, she told me it was the best reading she's ever had. So
good. In
that moment, I'm just like, Spirit had my back. I just had to shift from that place of fear. It's not going to work out, to going, you know what? It's fine. It doesn't matter what's happening in my life. It doesn't matter what's happening in this situation. Spirit has my back. They're always there, ready to connect to me. It's just about me, or it could be about the client sometimes, because sometimes you can pick up on their resistance too. But it's not ever about the spirit world. It's about us.
Yeah. Yes.
So I wanted to share that because, I could have internalized that and gone, okay, this is going to be shit. I'm just going to refund you the money, or I'm just going to let's just cancel, and I would have taken away an extremely healing experience, because she had shared with me afterwards that she had other readings and they didn't go well. 47. Yeah. I just got to tell you, I'm looking at the clock. They didn't go well. And she was disappointed. And she actually said to me at the end, I was prepared after a few minutes. If I didn't feel right or you weren't giving me stuff, I was going to say, okay, it's been nice, but I'm out of here. Because I didn't want to go through the pain of needing something and not get it.
And not getting it. Fair enough.
And I was just like, oh my God, I could have taken this healing experience away from her if I got it all in my head. I got in my mind and my thinking and my ego. So I wanted to share that because I just trusted. That's all it was. I just shifted into a place of trust. Nope, I'm good. Spirit's got my back.
Yeah, I see you feelings. Thank you. I understand why you're here. We're good, but I trust.
And that, looking at that, all those feelings, rather than judge myself for having them.
Yeah.
I don't. I think the average person would feel anxious in that situation. You would be in your head, right? Yeah. We can't spiritually bypass ourselves and be like, oh, I shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't worry. I think that's just totally stupid.
Yes.
Right? But that's the ego for you sometimes, right? So it's like just not judging it and going, you know what? No, this is trying to teach me something, and it's trying to teach me to trust. It's trying to teach me that I can do this regardless of what's happening around me, that I just, if I can ground and calm myself and shift into trust, that they do the rest. They're like, I got it from here.
Yeah.
Got it from here.
Yes.
And I think that's such a beautiful message just in general about intuition.
I agree. It's a good learning lesson. And I think a lot of others, regardless of if you do that work or not, you've probably been in similar situations.
Yeah. Where you're feeling
anxious about something for whatever reason. And the message is just to remember that we've got the tools. We're okay to remember, where we're from, where we come from, which is a place of love. And so, yeah.
And safety and
safety and all of.
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest piece with intuition. It's recognizing, it's trust. First of all, it's practice. It's constantly over and over and over working with it. Sometimes it's about, for me, at least in the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, I don't have proof of this yet. I don't have proof that this is truth yet, but that doesn't mean it's not true. And I'm just going to fake it till I make it. I'm just going to do it anyways. I'm just going to, what's the harm in, my intuition is telling me to drive this way instead of this way. There's no harm in trusting that. Yeah. Maybe there's harm in ignoring it, though.
Yes.
Maybe you get stuck in traffic forever when you could have just taken that side street and been out of there in no time, right? I feel like the evidence journal is a huge piece, because I feel like it saves you from waiting for the proof. right?
Yes, it does.
Because we always wait for the proof.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, okay, I have this feeling about somebody, but I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to wait till they absolutely destroy my self-confidence and break my heart, and then I'll know.
Okay.
Then I figured it out. And I think there's purpose in that. I feel like we need to go through those experiences so that we do learn how important it is to trust. But eventually you get to the point where you're like, oh no, I get some bad vibes, not even going here.
Where you put up your boundaries, right?
I would be a much different Amy if I was like in the dating scene now as a 43-year-old than when I was a 23-year-old.
Oh yeah,
I can
absolutely.
tell you that.
Like that's,
I would be like, nope. No, like, because I am just like at such peace with myself now.
Yeah.
I'm like, you better be some pretty
Huge
spectacular if you want to come in, if you want to be part of my world, because I'm already cool. I'm fine.
I'm already good.
I'm good by myself.
Do you want to come on this awesome train or not? I don't need you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Do you know how amazing that is that you said that? Did I ever share the story of how spirit brought through like attracts like?
No.
Okay, so I was doing a reading. This was years ago. The person was like, had experienced a lot of heartache, was recently divorced, was really wanting to meet somebody else and be in a relationship again. And spirit brought through this, like I saw like two, I don't know if they were eggs, balls, like I don't know, but two round shapes. Okay. And what I heard was like attracts like. You are born whole. You are a whole being. A baby is not born feeling insecure, worrying about their hair, worrying about the fact if they have, something on their skin, if they got a pimple, they got eczema, they don't care, right? A baby is born whole.
Yeah.
And the world makes us feel like we're not.
Yes.
So then you start seeing these, like picture a Swiss cheese. You start, there's little holes in it. And then all of a sudden what you do is you start to project on somebody else and you're like, fill the hole, make me whole, make me whole. Nobody can ever make you whole.
No.
So all you do is you project upon each other something that only you yourself can do.
Yeah.
And you can destroy each other.
Because of that, absolutely.
And you hurt each other. And I can think of so many relationships where I'm like, makes sense.
Yep.
And so if you get to a place of feeling whole, and you do this through healing, you do this through learning to trust your intuition, you get to the place where you're like, I don't want you, or I don't need you, but I want you. And that's a really empowering place to be. Like, you're like, you want, then you attract somebody also that's whole. Because like attracts like.
Likes attract likes. Likes, like,
attracts
and
that's just
nobody
truth,
filling
right?
my holes with some like,
I don't
cheese
want
whiz.
I was gonna that's but cheese whiz, okay, got it. I don't know, that's like, I don't even know. Silly putty? I don't know.
Cheese whiz isn't Swiss cheese. I don't know.
But there's so much truth in that, you know? Like, I feel like learning to trust your intuition helps you feel more whole as a person.
Yeah. It's also very empowering, right? Yeah.
It's an inside job. It's like, I want you, but I don't need you.
Yes.
I got everything I need right here. This might sound cheesy, but I think it's the truth. I really do.
It's that RuPaul saying, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else?
You can't. And that's what we do when we're like projecting and projecting and projecting. I mean, I'm not saying we don't love other people during that, but there's a feeling of not loving yourself if you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Somebody else could never fill in the gaps. That's why I hate the term other half.
I don't like it either. I also have recently just not been super big on soulmate or like twin flame. Sorry guys, I'm not the medium.
Not a twin flame. Me either. No. I
heard somebody said, I think I shared it a few weeks ago, but she was talking about how soulmates aren't a thing. We want somebody that we can grow with, so we get grow mates.
I love that. And you know what? I wrote a blog about soulmates, and it's on my website. If anybody's interested, you can just click on my website in the show notes and go to the blog part. But I wrote about my feelings on soulmates and what I've been taught from spirit. And they're not always romantic. They're not always lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we have a soul contract with somebody that we come here and we I'm not talking about abuse or mistreatment,
No.
okay? But like maybe we push each other's buttons a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we grind each
Butt
other's
heads or
gears
something.
about certain things because that's where we need to grow. And that's what we decided to do. Okay. We're going to come together in this lifetime and we're kind of going to piss each other off a little bit.
Yeah. But we're going to work through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we pull a card?
Well, I wanted to remember at the beginning I pulled one.
Oh, yes,
and then you got one too.
Yeah.
So you were talking about your experience with Alex and how he was like, "No, this isn't over. We're going to figure this out. I'm here." And so I laughed because the card popped out when you said that. And the card that we've got, and this is from Kyle Gray's The Angel Guide Oracle, is Harmony and Resolution.
There you go.
I was just like, okay.
There's a little tongue in cheek from Spirit.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says angel guidance is encouraging you to stand down from any conflicts that are going on in your life right now. Take a step back to collect your thoughts and breathe. Angels cannot help you unless you create space for them to intervene, and they are with you now and willing to restore peace. They want you to know that they are aware of your challenges and the concerns you have, and unless you have the faith that harmony can be restored, nothing can change. This is a time for you to visualize yourself, the situation, and everyone else enveloped in a golden light of goodness and grace. It's important to know that angels of peace are encouraging you to let them bring peace to the situation. Trust the process. Stop. Look at the breathe card. Breathe.
The card
and
that
the patterns
was breathe.
I love it. Just breathe. And a couple episodes ago, I shared with the angel wings and the breathe message.
Yeah.
If you guys missed that one, I'll just quickly tell you that in a Reiki healing experience I had, that I was a part of, the Reiki energy kind of works through you and shows you different things in visualizations. And I had this visualization of breathing, and it was like talking about the importance of breathing and breath work. And it was showing me that to compare your breathing, your lungs, to your angel wings, to the divine, to your angels, to your higher self, to your guides. And that when you breathe deeply and intentionally, that is you connecting to source energy. And that's how you do it. And it's all through breath. And that's what makes you alive. Like that's part of
it's connected to the
being
body.
alive. So I just love the angel connection with that too, and the breathing, and just beautiful. Like I love it too. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about your breathing card?
Yeah, I'll just. So yeah, for our listeners, if you missed that, Amy was talking about breathing in the card that she pulled, and I literally pulled the card of breathe from the Archangel Oracle card deck that I have by Doreen Virtue. So this is Archangel Raphael. It says, take several deep breaths and exhale slowly to awaken your energy and to release old patterns. That's it. It says often during times of stress, you may unconsciously hold your breath. This is very true. Yet, as you know, breathe is essential to oxygenating your mind, body, spirit, and very life. Write a note to yourself to breathe as a reminder of the importance of invigorating yourself with deep and steady breaths. Make trips to places with fresh air. You'll also notice an increase in air quality when you're near water, such as the beach or lake. Even taking a shower or a bath puts you in touch with that positive. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
The positive ions. I was like, positive ions. Positive ions associated with water and air. Amazing. Archangel Raphael is also calling you for healing. Pay attention to inner impressions and be sure to follow through upon guidance that calls you to take action.
I love that because you pulled an angel deck and I had an angel deck. Yeah. The breath work, the intention is really resonant. And about breaking patterns, like I feel like that goes hand in hand what we're talking about, right? About like even the like versus like message, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Realizing, okay, like
breaking those old patterns where we're projecting.
I'm looking for somebody to do this for me, but only I can do that for me, and just breaking that pattern and how that would shift and change.
No Swiss cheese. No
Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I have Swiss cheese in my fridge. Actually, I bought it for the first time in like 5 years.
I do like Swiss cheese, actually.
Yeah, I'm like Swiss. I've been like on an apple kick lately.
Ooh, Swiss and
you know
apple.
What? Oh, girl, or grapes and apple and grapes and Swiss.
Yes,
that's where it's at.
That's it. Okay, I'm getting hungry now.
I'm really hungry too, and yeah, it's funny because we've been talking about the body, and I mean, all of these things are important. You can learn to trust your intuition by listening to what the body needs too, right?
Absolutely.
Like my intuition was like, buy that Swiss cheese and that bag of apples. I don't know why. Maybe my body needs whatever's in those things.
I sometimes
all of these things are you trusting your intuition. Yeah,
trust.
Yeah, just trust and practice and get that that evidential is what I was going to say. Evidential journal out.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. And all that does is show you the proof is in the pudding, right? Whereas, okay, I thought this came in a month ago and now this makes sense why that came in. And eventually you're like, okay, I don't need to wait for the proof anymore.
Yes.
I can trust in the moment. And that's where it all begins. That's where it all begins.
Title of this episode. That's where it all begins.
Okay, so I'm going to do... How about I say trusting your intuition?
That's where it all began.
Love it.
Okay. What a good bookend. Oh, okay, people. Thank you so much, everybody. These episodes have been lit, as the youths say. I hope you have enjoyed it. Just as much as we have about talking about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And good luck, with all the fun things that are coming up with you. We will see you guys back here in May.
Maybe I'll have a Scottish accent. Who knows?
Maybe she'll have she'll have a wedding ring on. Maybe I'll have sold this house. Maybe I'll have purchased a new one. All exciting things coming in.
It out there.
Yeah, put it out there, people. And if you're interested, Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds on Amazon Prime.
I'm going to check it out.
Check it out. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll talk about it next time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good day. Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.